I watched Reasonable Doubt on Hulu, and here is what I thought. So when I first saw the trailer for this show, it reminded me of Scandal or How to Get Away from Murder, and I love both of those shows, so I decided to give this one a try. So here is like a brief synopsis of kind of the show if you don't know anything about it. So basically the show is about a lawyer, and she is very strong and fierce, and she does whatever she can to win the case for her clients. She's very good at her job, and she has a great team as well. And during the season, it focuses on one main case, and we also take a look at her personal life as well. And there's a lot of ups and downs to her life. She has to stay professional and focused in the courtroom, but sometimes her life is not perfect, and she has to kind of put that aside to deal with her work. But she does have a lot of family drama and things she's trying to work through on that side as well, while dealing with a major profile case. Guys, I love a good lawyer show, so this seemed right up my alley. So that is a general synopsis of what the show is about. So now I'm going to get into more spoilers and just letting you know you were warned. Okay, so this show, guys, it was messy, but like in the best way. So this season, Jax is a good defense attorney. Jax is our main character, and her company is trying to get a potential client named Brandon Miller to hire them to handle his business. He does have some skeletons in his closet. So when they're looking at potential client, they kind of want to know all about them. What are the good and the bad? So there is an employee at his company named Kalisha Moore, and she is accusing him of taking advantage of her. And what I mean by that, by sexual violence. And he denies it. Of course, since he is the face of the company, it does look bad on his company. And so he wants this to get taken care of so that, because he has some really big plans for his company in the future. So shortly after this meeting and all this is going down, Kalisha comes to their lawyer office. They're trying to get her to sign an NDA so that none of this goes out and affects his company. But she's like, no, this is my truth, and she does not want to be silenced, so she leaves and does not sign it. Shortly after that, she was killed. Yes, and guess who is suspect number one? Brandon Miller. Ooh, when I tell you it starts off good, it started off good. So like immediately, I'm like, he did it. Just some of the language he was using and the tone he was using when he was talking to people like, we're gonna get this handled. It just sounded like he was like, oh, I'll take care of it. Like, it sounded like that. And when he meant take care of it, he meant she gonna go by. And I'm just like, it's a little too coincidental. And Jax also believes that he did it too. And when it's his case coming up and trying to defend him, she doesn't want to take it because she's like, he's guilty. He does ask her, he's like, I know you're the best. I really want you to take my case. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it. She's like, there's other lawyers you can go with. Use one of them. I'm not taking your case. So everyone thinks he did it. And honestly, everything is pointing to him doing it. And his company is getting bad publicity because of this as well. Because he's the face of the company and it's looking bad. And all his plans for this company can go down the drain. So eventually, some evidence does come to light that Jax finds. Apparently, Kalisha signed the NDA that night before she was killed. And for that reason, Brandon would not need to kill her, because the only reason he really needed to kill her is because she was going to talk bad about the company and not sign the paperwork. But since her signature was already on there, he had no reason to kill her. So now that Jax knows that Kalisha signed it, she believes he is innocent because he has no motive. So she decides to take his case and prove his innocence. As I mentioned before, this case is a big part of this season, but also her personal life is interwoven throughout the story as well. Jax and her husband Lewis are currently separated. They're not living together, they're living in separate places, but they're trying to make their marriage work for them and the kids and figure out what are the next steps for them. So while they're figuring this out, this is where the mess I'm talking about is starting to come in. So since she's living in the house alone, her husband hires like this guy, a bodyguard, to watch the house, make sure the family protected. He also has cameras in the house, just in like the main living area. So Jax sleeps with the bodyguard that her husband hired. And not only does she sleep with him, she does it in the living room, knowing it is where her husband will see it. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I was not ready. Like, you can feel the tension of her and the bodyguard, but did I think she would do it in front of the cameras in front of her husband deliberately? No, I did not. And the thing was, when the husband saw the cameras, he was like a little into it. This was something I was not expecting. Oh my goodness. Then Damon comes back into Jack's life. So when Jax was a public defender before she was at this fancy company she is at now, he was like one of her last cases she had as a public defender, and she was not able to prove his innocence, so he ended up going to jail. Years later, he has a chance to get out if he admits to the crime that he said he didn't do. So he decides to do it. Jax is trying to convince him, no, this will always be on your record that you're a criminal. And he basically says, I'd rather have this and be free than stay in jail as an innocent person. So eventually he does admit that he did it to get out of jail. And Jax is really sad about this because she was always sad that she was the reason that she couldn't help him prove his innocence, because she was his public defender. But while she was, working on his case, they had a little something, they had a bond and they clearly were attracted to each other, but then he ended up going in jail. And that was before she met Lewis and had her family and everything. So now that Damon is out of jail, they can explore more of those feelings they had previously. So around this time with the bodyguard and Damon, I really wasn't feeling Max and I wasn't loving what she was doing. Because on one hand, she was trying to figure things out with her husband and literally told him to his face, I don't want to get a divorce. Like when they mentioned or talked about is divorce the next step for them, she was like, I just didn't like that word. That's not something I want to do. I don't want to get divorced. So I'm like, okay, now they know they don't want to get divorced. They're going to work on their marriage. So I'm like, okay, she wants to be with her husband. She wants to work this out. They're just trying to figure out how to get to that next step because they don't want to lead towards divorce. And then she starts sleeping with Damon. And I literally am like, what are you doing? I don't understand. Like, you literally told your husband to his face you do not want a divorce, but you're also sleeping with another man that her husband does not know about. He does not know that she's sleeping with this man. And then Damon, he wants to be with her. He wants to be in a relationship with her. He wants a real thing with her. But she's kind of like, doesn't want anything serious. She kind of just wants to have fun and let loose. She doesn't want to be in a real relationship with him. And she does eventually let him know that. Like, she does not want anything serious. And I do feel bad for him because he really did want to be with her. Eventually, Jack's husband, Lewis, realizes one day that she's on a date with someone and finds out where she is. Finds out she's on a date with this dude, and he sees her with Damon. And after that, after he saw that, he told her, I want a divorce. And I'm not gonna lie, I understand what Lewis is feeling. It's like, because you're thinking, because he has not wandered, and he wants to make their marriage work and everything, and he's assuming she wants to make it work, and that besides the bodyguard, she hasn't really slept with anyone, that they're just trying to work on a relationship. She didn't know she was like dating someone, seeing someone continuously. So after that, Lewis was done. And so then he goes find someone to sleep with. And he ends up sleeping with a single parent whose kids also go to the same school as his kids. And I was like, oh my goodness. It was just, when I talk about messy, this is what I'm talking about. And the other thing was, like, Jax had the nerve to be looking all types of upset when he was like, I want a divorce. I'm like, girl, you're out here dating and sleeping with another man, and he realized like, you're not putting the same effort as he is. Like, you're not as it looks like you're not as committed as he is to getting your marriage to work. So while all this is going on with her personal life, she is still handling this case with Brayden. And since they are trying to prove he's innocent, they're looking at all the other suspects. And there's a list. And when they're going through like motive and who could have done it, I'm starting to believe any one of these people could have done it. So one person is his wife, And apparently she was sending messages to Kalisha before Kalisha died. Like, kind of threatening messages. And I'm like, ooh, the wife could have done it, because she acted like she didn't know that he was sleeping with her before Kalisha was found murdered. But the wife knew. Like, honestly, the wife always knows, right? And then another one was Kalisha's husband. He could have had motive because he wanted to kill her because she was sleeping with her boss. But apparently he said before she died, her and her husband decided to get back together and work on their marriage more, and give their marriage another try. He didn't have anger for her. He was like ready to get past this chapter and like focus on their marriage again. Another suspect was Braden's partner. This dude did not like that, I guess, the effect Kalisha was having on Braden and the direction that their company was going to go because of Kalisha, he's saying. So that could be a reason he wanted to kill her, because he was ruining, or he believed she was ruining their company. So there were a lot of people that could do this. And let me just say, Braden's wife was literally on her last straw. All these things coming out about him, and he supposedly supposed to be in a loving marriage and loving family, but he's cheating on his wife and basically saying he loves Kalisha. So part of the strategy for his case is that he looks like a united front with his wife to prove his innocence, to show that she will stand by him. She doesn't believe he did it. There is something with the wife that I didn't really see it coming. I have to say, maybe a little bit, but there were some things I'm like, I didn't really see this coming. So Kalisha's husband confronted Braden's wife, and he said he knew about the messages she was sending, thinks her husband is a killer and he killed Kalisha. So then the wife is like, no, we'll have a discussion, meet me at this time and we'll talk about this. So they meet up secretly, and he kind of was like, your husband's a killer. And she's like, Braden didn't kill anyone, he's not a killer. And she's like, you're just trying to get back at him because he slept with your wife, but he's not a killer. But I know a way you can get back at him. And so, and I was not expecting them to get together. It was only like a one-time thing. But when I tell you, I was like, oh, we're really going to go there. Yeah, so to get back at Brandon, basically, Felicia's husband got with his wife. And I'm glad it's only one time, because I just thought the vibe was just weird. I did not like it. I was like, okay, we're done with this. I'm glad. I didn't like it. We're coming to the end of the season, and there are things that happen. So Damon kind of goes crazy and kidnaps Jax. He's constantly battling with not being good enough for her, and I also believe he's struggling with his life outside of prison as well. But he's like very possessive. He wants to be with Jax. He only wants to be with her. He doesn't want anyone else to be with her. When she was getting texts from another guy, he deleted the text. He's like, you don't want to be seen with me. Like, he's making up these scenarios in his head, and she doesn't feel that way. Like, she doesn't mind going out and being seen with him. And when there's a meal and he can't pay because I think they only take card and he doesn't have a card, and she's like, oh, I'll just take care of it. He's like, I can pay for it. You think I can't pay for a date with you? He's feeling very insecure about certain things, but it's all building up, and it builds up where he eventually kidnaps her and ties her up. And like, you see these red flags of his behavior, a little by little, like certain things, like, there's like insecurities, and then there's like possessiveness, and like, oh, that's a little dangerous, Jax. Keep an eye out. But she was not reading I feel like she saw some warnings, but she chose to ignore them. She was not seeing all the red flags. And then it led to this. Fortunately, her husband, Lewis, realized something was going on, and then started looking for her and started getting help to try and find where she was. And then when they kind of figured out where she was, Damon heard the sirens. And once he heard the sirens, he knew like it was it for him, because he is on probation. He just got out of jail. Like, it probably wasn't going to be a good outcome. So unfortunately, Damon did take his life in front of Jax, knowing it would be the end. And that was really sad. And she felt really sad, like how they kind of ended up like this, and wanted better for him. So that was really sad about Damon. Okay, after everything and all the suspects I gave you they had, who actually killed Kalisha? Well, we do find that out in the show. In the show, they do talk about sexual violence, and when Jax was younger, she dealt with grooming from her stepfather. And there was something Brayden said to Jax that made her think of her stepfather and similar to wording he used. And he remembered that Kalisha said that Brayden did sexually violated her and took advantage of her, even though he denied it. So that got Jax thinking. Jax did some digging to the case and found that paperwork, that NDA that Kalisha signed. Well, it turns out that that was not Kalisha's handwriting. It was Brayden's. So the whole reason Jax took this case was because she thought he was innocent doing the NDA being signed. But then she found out that it wasn't even Kalisha's signature. When she looked at it closely, like really examined it, she realized it was Brayden's signature. And when she found out, she let him know that she knew, but she did her job. Her job was to prove that he was innocent. And guess what? This dude was found not guilty for murder. And I was like, that's so messed up. Like, he actually did it and he gets to go scot-free. But eventually, he did get what he deserved. So there was some like evidence on his company doing some shady stuff in the background. And Jax had that evidence. And so she decided to send it to Kalisha's cousin. So I didn't talk about Kalisha's cousin until now, but she was by Kalisha's side the entire time. From the beginning, she believed Brayden killed Kalisha and was so mad at Jax for taking the case. It's like, he's guilty, even when Jax is like, no, I'll prove he's innocent. She signed this paperwork. Her cousin always believed that Kalisha was killed by Brayden, and she was right. The last thing, or the thing that Jax could at least do to try to get justice for Kalisha, was send her cousin this paperwork and get rid of everything that Brayden had. So he lost his company, and his wife already left him, and then he went to jail for whatever illegal stuff his company was doing. I do have to say, this show does end on a cliffhanger. So at the end, we see Jax going on a run, and then she gets a call from one of her best friends, and it turns out that her best friend killed her husband, and she needs a lawyer. And then done. Literally, that's where it ends. And I'm like, ooh, I need to know more. So after all that and watching this, I really did enjoy watching this show. I do think, at least in the beginning, it was a little bit slow for me, and it did take me some time to get into it. But like once it's but after the first couple episodes, it started to pick up, and I was getting more and more into the case, and also the drama. I do have to say that the drama got me wanting to watch more and see what happened as well. But after all of that, I would give this show a rating of 3.5 stars. And so it was a little bit more than average. So it was a pretty good show. It had the drama, it had the legal court case. So all that put together, I'm going to give this a 3.5. I do want to give a warning for the show. It does have some nudity in the show as well. So if that's something that you don't want to watch or want to see in your TV shows, maybe this is one you might want to skip. I also want to say, if you did like How to Get Away with Murder or Scandal, I would also maybe check this show out. The main character, like Jax, did give me a similar vibe to like a Annalise Keating and Olivia Pope. So if you like those strong Black women characters, maybe you want to watch Reasonable Doubt for Jax. I do want to say, if the show had a second season, I would definitely give it a watch. It did catch my attention enough to want to see what would happen next. So if you have seen Reasonable Doubt, what did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think about, the results of actually what happened to Kalisha, and also about Jax's personal life? Let me know your thoughts and feelings. I can't wait to hear. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recap and review of the show Reasonable Doubt. Definitely feel free to check out any more TV content that I do on my website, which I will link below for you guys. Also, feel free to follow me on any of my social media. I will also link those below for you as well. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, week, month, and hopefully a good rest of your year. And until next time, bye.